So we're going to be working with the Unity physics and colliders and rigid bodies this week. So I wanted to make sure we take a couple minutes and fully understand what exactly we're talking about. So the physics menu, we've used it a couple times in Unity, and it adds physics to our game objects so they can interact when we play them just like they do in the real world. If you just bring an object in to Unity, especially if it comes from an object you've made in a program like Maya or Blender, or if you get one online, a lot of times it will not have any physics on it. So we're going to need to put some physics on it so that when we play the game, it will interact with our environment. In this case, have the bus there hit a obstacle and take damage, or at least hit it and stop instead of just going right through it. And you can see we have a rigid body and some colliders in this diagram. So colliders. The colliders are usually defined by the shape of our object. You saw we had cube, we have sphere, different object shapes. So you would pick the one that would be defined by your object. It doesn't have to be the exact same shape. In fact, if you choose Mesh Collider, it'll sort of adapt to any shape you have. And you can also change that shape depending on how you want your game to play. So again, you can see we have the box, sphere, capsule. So if you have those shapes, you would pick those. And we have wheel, collider, like for a car wheel, and then terrain, like for the terrain we built for our virtual world. But then we have mesh collider, and that would be the one we choose if we have an irregular shape that we've made or that we brought into our game. So one thing to remember, especially in this car game we're building now, if you want the objects to collide, and I mean not go through each other, collide, like the car hits one of those cubes or objects I have in my game, then both of them have to have a collider. So remember that. Both objects have to have a collider. One can have a rigid body also, but they both must have a collider. They're going to go through each other. You're not going to see it when they play the game, and as we mentioned, it doesn't have to be the same size as the object. And you can actually resize it, so you can have an object collide with something before it physically looks like it's going to hit it. Like if you have a player going down the street and you don't want them actually to hit the building they're walking beside or something, or have an interaction with the building before they physically get to it, you can extend that collider. So, and this is an example right here. I extended the collider of our box collider here. Looks like I have two of them actually. So this van will actually hit this collider here. It will interact and stop, or take damage with the collider. When you play the game, you will not see the collider. And I extended it by just coming over here and grabbing that and extending it out. So you can see every game's different. So you may want your game to play a different way or interact with the environment before it actually comes near there. So you have the ability to tailor your game to fit the way you want it to play. One thing we want to do, especially in the game we're building now, is we want to make sure that we freeze the rotation of our car. So if you have a game where a player is moving forward along a road or a path, you've noticed that blue arrow shows its forward direction. But if it hits an object and interacts with it, it may turn left or right, in which case then the forward direction is no longer going forward. It could be going sideways or something. So your arrow keys or AWSD keys will be messed up. So in that case, we want to freeze the rotation. So you can see right now, this is my blue arrow for my bus fan moving, it's going straight. I have not froze the rotation, and I moved my speed up to 12. So again, we have a lot of control when we build a video game. We can change the mass of the player, of the object moving. We can change the drag or the angular drag, and we can also change the speed. So that's every one of those changes is going to make it interact in a different way with an object it hits. So in this case, I haven't froze the position or rotation. I'm going to hit that object, and you can see now, and this was not really a too big of a collision because I was pretty close to it. If I push forward now, I'm going to eventually be going off this road. Right now, the way we have it programmed is just forward, backwards, left, and right. We don't have any situational turn control. So now my forward would be going this way, so we would eventually go off the road. And going backwards, we go off the road this way. So we want to make sure we freeze that rotation, and then the game will play we want to. Let's go look at our Unity project. I do not have a rigid body on it. I think I took it off. So let me go ahead and put a rigid body on it. Now let me make sure I have the right scene. You guys should have a bunch of scenes in your game. So this is my current scene. Meaning if I were to look at your game, I should see a lot of scenes. Every time you make a change, File, Save As, Scenes folder, and write down what you just did. The scenes take no space whatsoever, and we want to make sure we save them. So if you're going to try something, you would save the scene right now, and then you would save a new scene and give it a new name, and then try whatever you want to, because you can always go back to your previous scene. So I do have a rigid body on this. What I'm going to want you to do for our exercise for this module is bring in these two objects that I'm going to have up on canvas. So this object and this object, I'd like you to put some color on them, resize them any way you want to, but I want you to experiment with the physics with them. So, and rename them so they're not obstacle 1 and obstacle 1-1. The one thing I do want you to do is get rid of the mesh collider. So I think I got rid of it on mine, but you're gonna, when you bring these obstacles, either bring them in with assets, import new asset, and bring them in after you download them, or you can just drag them into your console here. But once you do that, then I want you to go remove the mesh collider, or you can just either uncheck it or just click here and remove it. And I want you to put colliders, whatever collider you want on these, resize them, color them. But when you play your game, I want you to collide with these two objects. You can also go down here and go to the course library, obstacles, and drag some of these in. And you can see it as a mesh collider, but go ahead, change it, move, put a different collider on there, maneuver it. So, and again, if you want to change the colliders, the mesh collider is for any shape. So it's not really a great collider if we want to have different things happen. So let me go to my, this one here. And I'm going to put a, I'll sort of cheat a little bit. I put a sphere collider, of course it's not a sphere. But just for an example. And you can see I can change the radius of it, whoa, really big, to have anything I want. So obviously you're not going to use a sphere collider. So you figure out what you're going to use. But you see, I could have things interacting with this even before they get to it. So I want you to fool around with that. And we'll remove it. Put any collider you want in there. Make sure it hits. Bring some of these in. And so when I play your game, I'm going to collide. I'm going to be moving through them, trying not to collide. But I am going to collide with some of them and see what happens. So remember, you want to then be able to change the speed of your car, maybe the mass. So the speed and the mass of the car, I think it's 1. I made mine 1.5. So let's just say I make it like 15. And let's see where I am in my game. I think this has a mesh collider. I'll put it in front of me. So that one, not a big collider, is not a big shape either. So I sort of just went through it and hit it. But let's take a look at what I have on my card. Now, this is what I was talking about here. I froze my rotation. Let's say I didn't freeze it. Yeah, that's not going to work, is it? Yeah, we're going all over the place. Okay, so yeah, we're going to freeze the rotation 99% of the time when you have a game where the object's moving forward, it's going to hit something, you're going to freeze that rotation. Sometimes you may freeze the position if it's up in space or something. And since we want to accomplish a few things here, let's look at what script I have on this. Let's see if I jump. Okay, so let's take a look at that script.